Wow, it looks different around here. Welcome to Thursday Reviews. I am back for a short time, and I have some interesting things to review. This is a little less of a review and more so a story, but I'd like to talk about my CD players and my CD player history. Now, growing up as a kid, from maybe around the mid-2000s all the way up until probably around 2012 or 13, I had a JVC boombox that could play CDs, cassette tapes, and the AM and FM radio, and it could record onto tapes as well. I never ever touched a cassette tape until much more recently, so I never ever used that feature, but I got extensive use of the CD mode and the radio mode. I used to listen to the radio to fall asleep, and so that was pretty normal. And I also have lots of CDs. You might be able to see this shelf above my head. It is filled with CDs that I've gotten since 2020, and I have another bookshelf that has a ton that I've had since around 2007 or 8, and I'd use those to play CDs on. We don't have those anymore because we sold them, so we used to have two. If I can find the exact model name of it and the exact picture of what it looked like, I'll put it on screen. I know it was from JVC, and they were pretty nice. Although they had a couple of flaws. If I could review it, then I would. The volume was always super excellent. If you ever unplugged them and plugged them back in, the volume would reset to some super high level. And we lived in crappy apartments that had paper-thin walls. And yeah, that was very interesting trying to, if you ever forgot that the volume is blaring at maximum whenever you plug it in. But like I said, we sold those around 2012 or 13, and we don't have them anymore. So I've had this TV for a while, which I need to do a review on this too. This Kobe TV has a CD player in the side. I'll insert a clip of a previous Thursday Reviews episode where I was demonstrating that. However, this TV is really old at this point. It has been in my possession since 2009, and it's older than that. I even have videos, probably, if I can find one, I have videos of my bedroom in 2009 where you can clearly still see this in there. But the CD player mechanism is starting to sound really noisy and really worn out, and I'm getting kind of scared to use it. So now we have three portable CD players that I'd like to show you. Now, the reason why I didn't want to use this TV, well, what if it ended up eating one of my CDs and the only way to get it back out is to unscrew the back of it and pry out the CD? That was always a kind of fear of mine with these slot-loading CD players. Well, my laptop has a CD player in it too, but you know what's common about both of those? I've mentioned this in a previous Thursday review. The screens are blinding. What if I wanted to fall asleep while listening to a CD? Or what if I wanted to have it on in the background and be doing something else where I don't want to be looking at a bright screen? Well, you're going to need a portable CD player. This is the first CD player that I reviewed, and I've often thought, wow, all of my Thursday Reviews episodes, I should do some sort of recap of all the things I've reviewed and show you what they look like now, or if I even still have them now, or if they still work, if it was electronic. Because I started Thursday Reviews back in 2017, so some of these items are several years old and have definitely disintegrated in some cases, like with my screwdriver that I reviewed on episode 3 or 4. I might do a separate video on that. But anyways, this is the Raidohi or whatever CD player that I said looked like a burger. Yeah. There's a reason why there are several more CD players sitting over here. This thing just kind of quit working. Now, it doesn't have any batteries in it right now, and I don't even remember what I did with the cable that plugs into it. But the thing is, not long after I made that episode where I reviewed this, it started developing some odd problems. I would notice that at the very beginning of a CD, usually within the first minute of the first track, it would start to skip, and it sounded terrible, and sometimes stopping and restarting would fix the problem, sometimes it wouldn't. Sometimes if I just fast-forwarded through that first part of the CD, I'd be fine. But for the most part, yeah, it started to skip early on. So then what did I do? I would take a proper cloth. You don't want to wipe it with something abrasive, like sandpaper, scratch it up. But I would clean the lens. So right, this thing opens up, you can put the CD in there, and there's the lens right in there. And, well, I tried cleaning it, and it would help for a time. And then it wouldn't. Then it would just start skipping more and more and more. And then eventually, I'm pretty sure, if memory serves, this thing just kinda stopped wanting to fast forward to other tracks. It would skip a lot, and if you tried skipping forward to several other tracks, it would have a hard time doing it, and I think what eventually ended up happening was the mechanism that actually moves the laser in there somehow broke, or maybe I broke it, maybe I put too much pressure while I was wiping down the lens. I don't know, but whatever it is, it became really fragile, and now it's like a delicate balance trying to get this to even work. I have not touched this CD player in over a year, and I've had no real luck with trying to get it to reliably play CDs. So then that is when I moved on to this weird thing, the Amtok CD player. I might give you a closer look at this and what features it had, but I will tell you the weird issue it developed. This CD player worked just fine. It had a couple of strange quirks. Now, it's funny because when you look, you see all these buttons and switches on the side, you see lots of buttons, but nowhere in here is there an open button. Well, it's this really hidden thing right here that I might show in better detail here in a little bit. But yeah, the CD goes in there, and yeah, this CD player was working just fine. It had excellent skip protection, and I didn't really have any issues with it. However, making a quirky CD player that had some strange things about it is not always a good thing, because there was something really weird that it would do. It has skip protection, and it would jump ahead like 30 seconds for skip protection, but the CD player would actually stop. The CD would stop spinning and it would continue playing because it reads far ahead into the CD. And then after 30 seconds or so, the CD would spin back up again and it would read further ahead. But sometimes it would start spinning the CD player, or it would start spinning the CD too late. And so by the time it finally got up to speed, the player wasn't ready yet, and there'd be a couple seconds of silence before it began to play the music again. And it's like, why? That's annoying. That wasn't the only weird thing about it, though. There were a couple times where it just flat out wouldn't restart the CD. So you'd have to go in, open it up, flick the CD around yourself, close it, and then resume playing. This has a memory, so if you stop the CD player and then restart it again, even if you power it off and back on again, then it will actually remember the last track you were on. It had a couple of interesting things as well, like a built-in battery, 2 headphone jacks, and other things, but in general, your controls are pretty simple. I might show this better in a close-up, but it's just pretty simple controls. There was no stop button on this, so the only way to stop it was to either just pause it or to open the lid. That would stop it. I believe this could also play MP3 CDs because it has a directory button that would be able to change folders, and it has some EQ modes to where you could change it to have extra bass or whatever. So yeah, unfortunately this is it's got a couple of issues for sure. And then one day it decided to just not work anymore. It kinda works, but the CD, the motor that actually spins this spindle right here, doesn't spin fast enough anymore. It doesn't spin fast enough, so it can't actually read the data on the CD. So it's been unusable ever since. 2 brand new CD players, both with major issues. So what's the next logical choice? Go with a name brand. But companies like Sony aren't really making things like this anymore, so there's only so many options. So now I will introduce something from an official brand that you cannot see. Sony. A Sony Discman. Now this is a really, really simple Sony Discman. There's not a lot of features on this. It is older than I am. I believe it came out in 1999, so barely older than I am. And it doesn't have a speaker. None of these devices have speakers, so instead you gotta use headphones. This also takes batteries. This one actually still has batteries in it. And this, for a portable CD player that's absolutely ancient, well, I gotta tell you, it works perfectly. It works absolutely perfectly. Well, okay, mostly perfectly. Sometimes when you put a CD in, kind of the same issue with this one, the CD player just won't spin fast enough, and it just won't read the disc properly, and so sometimes you'll have to open it up, give the CD a spin first, then turn it on, and it will work. The only thing is, there's a little low battery light that'll come on. When the battery is low, it'll just stop playing audio. It'll still spin, the screen will still work perfectly, but it will not play any audio at all. So when the batteries are dead, it just gets quiet. So I'd like to talk about how dead simple this device is. It has no skip protection at all. If you're playing a CD and you tap the top of it, even very lightly, or you place it down on a table or something, it is guaranteed it will skip. I might even give a demonstration of that shortly. Also, there's no pause button. You heard that right. You can't pause the CD. The only thing you can do is push stop, which turns it off. It turns the device completely off. So it's either playing or it's off. It has track controls, fast forward and rewind. It has a stop button, and it has volume control over here, as well as a mode button, which for some reason they labeled as menu, even though it's not really a menu. And this allows you to change between shuffle or repeat or I believe intro. It's also got two switches down here. It's got Sony's famous Mega Bass down there, in case you really want some bassy music. And it has a hold switch, which locks all the buttons in case you slip this into a bag and you don't want all the buttons being pressed. But other than that, there's really not a whole lot to this. This is a very cheap and simple product, but the fact that it still works perfectly is pretty amazing. And it has batteries, and I believe they are charged. Yes, it works. Not that you can read the screen. So I'm going to give a little demonstration of this device. I'll put a CD in, and I'll show you the anti-skip thing, which it does not have. It has no anti-skip, nothing. So this would be the setup of putting a CD in here. You just open it up, there's a little open button. Place it in, it has to click in. Grab a speaker. I've reviewed this speaker before, it still works perfectly. I will plug it into the headphone jack of the CD player, and I'm going to have cords tangled up all over the place. And all I got to do is just simply push play. You can hear it starts up. And it begins to play. Now, this is copyrighted music. It's a ZZ Top, so I'm not going to be showing too much of that. However, I want to show you what happens when I actually tap the top of the CD player. Let's hope you can hear that pretty well. Even just simply putting it down is enough to make it skip. But other than that, see, picking it up. Other than that, it's fine. I can fast forward. I can change to any track I want. But there's no pause. I can only push stop, which turns the player completely off. So yeah, it's a little weird, and it's definitely missing some features, but you can find these online. I think there's some guy that restores them or just makes sure that they're working, and they'll sell a bunch of these online. And so this was a pretty good option for a while, and as you see, I still use it when I need a portable CD player. But not everybody wants a portable CD player, and sometimes you might want something that has speakers on it. So then I got this thing. Now this allows me to play CDs, tapes, and the radio just like I could in the early, all of the 2000s decade. So that is pretty cool. This is a really well-known Sony boombox. It's official Sony brand, and it doesn't cost too much. It's less than $100. And this is this, I'm going to go over the model numbers of all of these separately, and this could get its own review later. Lots and lots of people have reviewed this exact machine before, and let me tell you, it's a new machine, brand new, so it doesn't suffer any weird issues, and it's Sony, so it's high quality. It plays CDs, cassettes, and the radio, as I said. It's well known for being high quality, and considering how terrible tape decks have become, for several reasons that have been explained by channels like V Westlife or Techmoan, well, this one's actually kinda decent. And it has speakers, so you don't need to plug in headphones or other speakers, because this is a boombox, a full boombox with bass, and yeah, it's actually pretty nice. This actually is probably, like I said, going to get its own review later, but I could give you some demonstration on it. I'll show you the tape compartment goes in here. You've got all the controls up there, if you want to take a look at it. So hit that button, and you're good to go. You're playing tapes. Now, this unit, as you can see, is definitely not portable. It is a little bit bulky, but it's a boombox. What do you expect? It has a CD player on the top. Just put the CD in there. And it comes with a power cord, which you can plug into the wall. Or you can put in 2 million batteries down here in case you wanted to actually make it somewhat portable, but also really heavy. So let's go over the model numbers of these in case you want to know the failed model numbers, which I would not recommend buying. The Raidohi R001, which I found on Amazon. I can't find a model number for this one, but it does say Amtok on the front, so AMTOK, Amtok CD player. Again, I would not recommend this one either. It does have some interesting quirks, and it did work as a CD player. It was fine until it just didn't spin the motor fast enough. Maybe I had a defect in mine. I probably did. I have pretty bad luck when it comes to defective devices, so it might be fine. And it definitely had excellent skip protection, but it just had annoying quirks about it that I'd recommend finding something better. The Sony Discman, which I believe some of these are also called CD Walkmans, is the Sony D191. So if you want to find these, I think you can still find them online. There you go. It also has a power port back here, but mine didn't come with that. So that's kind of weird. But luckily it just takes 2 AA batteries, so it shouldn't be too difficult to get one of these up and running. And this Sony boombox is the Sony CFD S70. Alright, well, I think that's probably going to be about it for this episode. Thank you for watching. Yes, this series is back for at least a few weeks, so enjoy this while you have it. And thank you for watching this episode, and I'll see you next week.